So we are literally just hours away from the Tesla Cybertruck delivery date event, and in this video, I kind of wanted to just have a conversation about the Tesla Cybertrucks and just briefly steer away from just the idea of Tesla stock individually and kind of just focus on the business model of Tesla and what the Tesla Cybertrucks can do. Now look, there's no surprise that the Tesla Cybertrucks will increase the TAM for Tesla, which is the total addressable markets. There's no surprise. This is something that, I've said a multitude of different times on this channel about how when you look at the data, Americans prefer pickup trucks versus just regular sedans. In fact, if you take a look at the Bureau of Transportation, we see that lightweight trucks by far exceed the amount of sales in comparison to just passenger cars. And look, guys, one of the things I often say is that you want to look at multiple data points. You just don't want to look at one source. And so if you look at the National Automobile Dealership Association, we see a very similar trend where we see that from the year to date, from January of 2023 to October of 2023, so we're 1 month off, we see that about 80% of the sales have came from pickup trucks. And so it's obvious that Americans love pickup trucks, and I believe one of the reasons is because of the utility. For example, earlier today, I was driving down the road in my car and I saw someone giving away a lot of wood for free. Now, I want you guys to know that, wood or lumber, it's not cheap, okay? And so if I had a pickup truck, I probably would have just stuffed that on the flatbed as, or on the back of the truck as you could probably just keep that for a future project, or you could sell it somewhere else. But of course, if you just have a passenger car, you can't do that. And so I believe that one of the reasons Americans love, lightweight pickup trucks is simply because of the utility. But staying on the conversation for the Tesla Cybertruck, there's this huge a dichotomy between individuals who absolutely hate the Cybertruck and then individuals who pretty much love the Cybertruck. There's really no middle ground. It's just this opposite or polar end of the spectrum where you hate it or you love it. You have some individuals that believe it looks like a drawing that a 4-year-old has drew in the past, or you also have some individuals that say, look, this is the future design of cars, and this is absolutely a great product. And so wherever you fall on the spectrum, whatever it is, that's obviously your own opinion. But I wanted to highlight this video recently done from Farzad. By the way, if you guys don't know who that is, this is someone who is also on YouTube that talks about Tesla. He doesn't talk about Tesla stock as a trader and investor as I do. He kind of just focuses more just on the underlying aspect or business model of Tesla, but definitely someone that is a great voice for the community. He's been retweeted and also responded to by Elon on X.com a multitude of different times. And so definitely a great guy. I don't personally know him, but again, a great guy. And so I wanted to play this clip that he has from someone called Ray. I don't know too much about Ray, but apparently he has like 40 years plus in the background of the automobile industry. And so they're having this conversation about the Cybertrucks. And I wanted to share with you guys some misbeliefs that other individuals have. And so with that said, let's go ahead and watch this video.
That's not cheap.
It's not.
So do you think it will sell in the numbers that everybody has anticipated that it would? Let me phrase that by saying there's no middle ground when it comes to that truck. You either love it or you hate it. Okay. Yeah. Are there enough wealthy people who love it to spend the kind of money it's going to take for it to sell in the numbers that everybody anticipates it's going to sell in?
I think without a doubt. I think it's going to blow people's minds. I really do think so. And the reason why I say that is if you look at the Model Y, Tesla's Model Y, it will be the best-selling car on planet Earth by the end of this year. It's literally neck and neck with the RAV4. And the Model Y is 45% more expensive on average than the Toyota RAV4. And it's an EV. And so my question becomes, say 3-4 years ago when the Model Y was launched, did anyone ever think that the Tesla Model Y would be the best-selling car in the world?
Probably not, but its styling is not as oft-putting to as many people as that of the Cybertruck.
Do you think that the style will be that big of a deal in the pickup truck market?
I think anytime you're asking people to spend that kind of money, absolutely style matters. It has to be appealing, and it has to be appealing to a large percentage or the largest percentage of people. I personally don't think that the Cybertruck is, because it's so radical compared to everything else out there. Yes, people can be attracted to radical looking things. Salvador Dali certainly was.
Mhm.
But I don't know that there's enough people to think that's so radical I've got to have it.
I disagree.
Now, I want to just briefly stop it right here because one of the arguments said here is, again, just the style or the looks of the Cybertruck. It looks horrendous, right? That's the belief of many individuals. But one thing I kind of want to point out is that I believe a majority of Americans, and again, this is just my belief. Again, maybe there's someone else who has a completely different opinion, but I think a lot of individuals buy pickup trucks more for the utility and not for the style. I know there's some individuals that love trucks because it gives you that rugged style. It makes you feel like you're more of this, big guy on the block. But at the end of the day, I think most people and businesses, right? Think about the businesses who buy trucks simply because they need to haul something on the back. And so, you're gonna have people that hate it. You're gonna have people that love it. But I think most people buy pickup trucks more for the utility. Again, thinking back to that example I said from driving earlier today, if I had the Tesla Cybertruck, I probably would have picked up all that free wood, even though I don't have any use for it now. But again, I could have sold it to someone else or kept it for a future project. And so I think a lot of businesses don't buy trucks just for their looks. I think they buy it just so they could operate their businesses.
Think about it the other way. I think the looks will grow on people because the cost benefit analysis for that vehicle is going to be so good that the looks will not matter. So the reason why I say that is if Tesla executes where it looks like they're going to execute, they're going to have a $65,000 pickup truck starting. So this is before the $7,500 credit, which will get it down to $57,500. That will have at least 300 to 350 miles of range starting, which for people that are looking to utilize a truck for, say, work purposes, where they are driving for less than 200 to 250 miles a day pulling a trailer, that the cost equation for that truck is going to be an absolute no-brainer. And then on top of that, you're also going to have a lot of people that are going to want to buy the truck because they just love Teslas. So there was a study that was done, I think it was Bloomberg, where they pulled a bunch of current Tesla owners and a lot of current Tesla Model 3 owners, so the sedans. What's the car they're most looking forward to is the Cybertruck. It doesn't just have an appeal to just the pickup truck market, it has appeal to the entire EV market.
I get that, but
Yeah.
Do you think that most people who are buying a Model 3, which today starts at about 38 grand, are suddenly going to go, for another $30,000, I can get that Cybertruck? That's a big ass. As I would like to say, it's a big ass jump to go from 38 to 65.
But Tesla owners are very affluent on average. They're very affluent, so they can afford.
But at a certain point, they're not all going to be.
100%. 100% agree with you. But my argument is that the bigger pie is outside of the Tesla people. It's another thing, too, that no one has seen this in person yet. I've seen it in person 3 different times. Very few people have seen it in person since they've unveiled it, let's call it. It looks very different in person, Ray. I think once you look at it in person, you're going to change your mind.
Does it look svelte in person?
It looks absolutely stunning. It looks absolutely stunning. Take my word for it.
Okay. That would be like, say, you take a picture of me, okay, and but in
don't do this to yourself.
but in person, he looks like Brad Pitt.
I think you're going to be surprised. I honestly think pictures don't do the car justice. You know how some cars just look like crap in pictures and in person they look completely different? Like the Ioniq 6 is an example recently where in pictures it looks like the ugliest car I've ever seen in my life. And then in person it doesn't look too bad. The Cybertruck, it's because it's so flat. It's very hard to bring out the dimensionality of the truck and the curves. It has curves. You just don't see them in pictures. It doesn't capture it. Those that are super polarized by the look, I think will look at it and be like, damn, okay, that's actually much better looking than I thought. Let me say it another way. I think Tesla is going to be supply constrained for the decade for the Cybertruck.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they're also expecting it to take 18 months to actually be able to get up to the production levels that they would like to get to with the
Which is normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But allegedly, there's 1 million reservations. How many of those do you think really go to the people that reserved them?
At least 80%. 80%, at least. So when the Model 3 first went into production, there was 500,000 reservations for the car.
Okay.
And the Model 3 ships about 500,000 units per year. So the reservation to car ratio is sort of like a proxy. Now, the key thing to keep in mind with the Cybertruck is that the reservation was $100 and Model 3 was $1,000, right? So people were willing to put in $1,000 for the Model 3 and they were $500,000. With the Cybertruck, it was $100, so it was $1 million. But theoretically, you can put in a factor that says, okay, if you were to take it up to 1,000, that list probably goes down to $500,000 as well, or maybe even 250.
Okay.
Right? But the numbers are there.
The only reason I ask is I remember when my former boss, Mr. Roger Penske, got involved with the smart car, the Smart for Two. He was going to be directly involved with the sale of the vehicle in this country through his dealerships. And I remember everybody was putting down $100 deposits to reserve their Smart for Two, or I put down my $100 deposit to reserve my Smart for Two Cabriolet. Okay. Yeah. The closer it got to actually being built, the further away I got from ever really wanting it. For $100, I could put a deposit down on something and see what the pricing is going to be. And then when I realized the pricing is going to be way more than what I was hoping for it to be, I'll just get my $100 back. Not that I want to say there's no value in $100, but there's no value in $100 on a $65,000 truck.
Sure.
So I want to just stop it right here because I do kind of agree with the point that Ray has at this, with this concept of just saying that someone depositing $100 to put a reservation for the Cybertruck is kind of meaningless, right? Because yeah, $100 is $100, but with this day and age and inflation, it doesn't really go that far. Like you said, people spend that on dinner. That's just 3 plates at an Olive Garden or something, right? And so I definitely get that, right? 100% agree with that. As Farzad mentioned that, yeah, with the previous models, there was a $1,000 deposit for reservations, and so that's more of someone committing to something. And I definitely believe that a lot of individuals bought or paid for the $100 reservations for the Cybertruck back when they were first coming out, simply just for the clout. I can't tell you how many individuals were like, hey, look, I just put a reservation for this new truck. And so I 100% agree with what Ray is saying here, that it doesn't really show that there's much commitment. But like Farzad mentioned over here, maybe if it was higher, the number could go to half or maybe 250,000, but that's still pretty good. And again, this is a larger market, right? It's a lightweight pickup truck market, and so I don't think that's too much of an issue, but that's just my take on that.
Yeah, I mean, some people will piss that away for lunch. I don't think, it's just me, and God knows I'm always wrong on most of my predictions.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I would be surprised if the number of people who left a reservation at $100 to the percentage of people that actually go through with it, I'm guessing it's going to be closer to 50%.
Okay.
But even if it's 50%,
it's 500,000 people.
Yeah, that's 500,000 trucks. I get that. But it's going to take a long time for them to be able to produce that 500,000 trucks.
For sure. I definitely understand where you're coming from. And I think there's something to be said for, hey, if you're too polarizing and if you're too off the wall, there is a chance that there's going to be a core demographic that you're trying to capture that's just not going to go for it because it just looks too crazy. Yeah. But I think the one thing that Tesla does really well is that they often create vehicles that people just want because of the merit of the vehicle. Like the Model 3 and the Model Y, the S and the X, I would like to say that and think that the reason why people buy those cars is because they are amazing cars. And there's a reason why in the US, if you compare the 3 and the Y versus its competition, especially against EVs, they're selling way more than the rest of the auto market combined. And so the thought process becomes, why wouldn't the Cybertruck also be a great product that's going to sell way better than everybody else?
I would say this after having driven the Model Y. It's great software and great technology. The ride and the fit and finish left a lot to be desired, at least for the one that I drove.
What year was it?
I don't know. I think it was 3 years old, 3 or 4 years old.
Okay.
I have like 43,000 miles on it. And there wasn't anything in there that didn't rattle, including the passengers. I was so impressed with the software. I was so impressed with the technology. I was not impressed at all with the ride and the fit and the finish. But that's just me. I mean, yes, there's a lot of people that you've probably heard me say it. The early adopters have adopted the EVs that they're going to adopt. EV sales have stagnated to a certain degree. They've kind of hit a plateau. GM's backing off some of what they were trying to do. Ford's cutting a shift at the Lightning facility. Maybe it's because they can't compete with Tesla. I don't know. But I think the bloom has come off the rose a little bit, if that makes sense.
All right, so I want to stop it right over here simply because we hear Ray saying that, okay, the bloom is, or I don't even know what analogy he mentioned here, but that kind of the appeal for EVs is dwindling. And I just want to reiterate that that's absolutely false. We're actually seeing the trend for EVs continue to grow. And the reason why we're seeing these legacy automakers kind of stop under production for EVs is something that I've said on the channel before. They can't afford it, right? These other companies are not profitable for EVs. And so essentially what they're doing is they're pretty much trying to please their shareholders. You can't keep losing money for your shareholders. And so what you're going to have to do is focus on making money, which is what they do with internal combustion engines. And so especially with the strike that they had with the UAW, losing a ton of money. And so as the CEO for those companies, I get it, right? It's a short-term view, right? You kind of have to stop kind of being productive or, innovating and kind of focusing on the future and kind of just focus on your money makers. I get it, right? And this is a problem when you have a publicly traded stock. You kind of have to please the shareholders. And then, so if you have something that's bleeding, well, you're going to have to stop the bleeding and focus on the cash making cow, or whatever analogy you want to use, right? The cash flow, right? And so you're going to have to focus on the profitable products. And so that's why we're seeing these legacy automakers kind of stop making EVs or slow down making EVs. I don't think it's because EVs, the appeal was dying. It's simply because these legacy automakers are dying, quite frankly. And so that's just my, perspective on it. We've seen, the trend continue to go up. And so again, this narrative that these legacy automakers try to spin that people don't want EVs, it's not entirely true. In fact, just look at the data for yourself. The trend is actually going up.
Makes sense when it comes to EVs.
I think there's multiple variables going on. I think there is something to be said about like legacy automakers definitely backing off. Like you said, GM in today's call, they're basically putting a pause on their EV plans, and they're trying to delay the Silverado EV, the Blazer EV, and all those guys until later, until they can get a little bit more profitable because of the whole UAW strike and whatever else. You also see Tesla's pricing came down dramatically for the year because what they claim is interest rates. Interest rates have gone up so high, it's become much more difficult to afford a car.
Yes.
And even though Tesla is working its way down the cost curve pretty effectively, the cheapest car is still $38,000. And that is not a cheap car. So they're still selling into a market, and like the Cybertruck's going to fall into the same exact equation. Probably not early days because people are just going to buy every Cybertruck that gets made, but maybe into 2025, if the economic conditions don't soften up, they could have a little bit of trouble selling it. I don't think so, but they might. The economic conditions are also making it tougher for people to afford EVs because EVs are still $38,000 and more. They're still in that upper price bracket. So they're going to be disproportionately impacted by higher interest rates than the rest of the auto market, because everybody else in theory can still make cars. Like Toyota can still sell you a $28,000 Corolla or a $29,000 Prius in theory, if a dealer can get it to you, right? So I think we have to also view it through that lens, is that EVs are going to be disproportionately affected by higher interest rates because they haven't made it as a whole down the cost curve yet. But I think once they really start making it down the cost curve with the release of the compact car from Tesla.
Now I want to go ahead and cap it around here, as the video pretty much ends around here anyways, but the main thing I wanted to highlight is that yes, although a ton of individuals absolutely hate the Cybertruck and they don't believe in it, for the most part, I pretty much agree with a majority of what Farzad said in this video, that regardless if you hate it or love it, it's going to be a game changer for Tesla, right? It's going to address a much larger market, and yes, it's going to be challenging to scale it up. It's going to take some time to actually become profitable with these vehicles, but that's actually normal. Of course, the big challenge is just the economic cycle going into 2024, which is something that I've said on this channel for quite some time. But looking into Tesla stock, the actual stock, one of the things I talked about on this channel is that I saw November as a very bullish month for Tesla, as we also, this event was going to be a positive catalyst, and that's exactly what we saw so far for November. Just look at the chart for Tesla and just only look at November. Pretty much Tesla stock almost did 30%, so definitely a great November. But one of the things I said on this channel is that it was most likely going to be a buy the rumor, sell the news type of event. And so if you're trading Tesla in the short term, again, you know, if you're investing in Tesla and you're trading, and those are two completely vehicles or separate vehicles, you want to know what you're exactly doing. For example, I'm long-term bullish in Tesla, my long-term portfolio, but I also trade Tesla in a separate trading account. And so pretty much I'm going to be trimming off the profits for Tesla in November. Again, you do whatever you see value in, but this is pretty much what I'm seeing with Tesla. I think long-term, great, but I think, you know, in the short term, once these vehicles start getting delivered and we get updates on the price, I don't see Tesla you know, actually continuing to go up. I do see December a bit more bullish, but I think there's going to be a lot more consolidation. But for that, you know, of course, this video has been long enough. I'll probably save it for another video to talk more in depth about the price action for Tesla. But with that said, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. And before you guys go, make sure to check out this next video right over here. And I'll see you guys on that next video. Take care.